The universe is not what they told you. Right now, as you sit there listening these words, you are hurtling through space at over 1.3 million miles per hour. Your planet spins beneath you at 1,000 miles per hour while racing around a star that itself is careening through the galaxy at 514,000 miles per hour. And that galaxy? It's plunging through the cosmic void at 1.3 million miles per hour toward something we can't even see. You are not sitting still. You have never been sitting still. You will never be sitting still. Every atom in your body, every thought in your mind, every moment of your existence is part of the most violent, chaotic, beautiful dance in the universe. And somehow, impossibly, you experience it as stillness. But that's just the beginning of the lie. The floor beneath your feet isn't solid. The air you breathe isn't empty space filled with molecules. The light reaching your eyes isn't traveling through nothing. Reality itself isn't what your senses tell you it is. You live in a universe where time can stretch and compress like taffy, where particles can exist in multiple places simultaneously, where the act of observation changes the very nature of what you're looking at. You inhabit a cosmos so strange, so utterly alien to human intuition, that if you truly understood it, you would question everything you thought you knew about existence itself. Consider this moment, this exact moment as you process these words. You think you're experiencing now, but there is no now. The light from your screen took time to reach your eyes. The electrical signals in your brain take time to process. The very concept of simultaneity is an illusion. When you look at the stars, you're seeing ghosts, ancient light from suns that may have died before your species even existed. When you look at your own hand, you're seeing it as it was nanoseconds ago. There is no present moment. There is only the eternal dance between past and future, and somehow, impossibly, you exist in that dance. But even that isn't the strangest part. The strangest part is space itself. You think of space as empty, as the void between things, as the stage upon which the cosmic drama unfolds. But space isn't empty. Space isn't even space as you understand it. It's a fabric that bends and warps, that can be stretched and compressed, that can bubble and foam at the smallest scales. It's a medium through which waves of gravity travel, at the speed of light, carrying the news of cosmic catastrophes across billions of years. It's a quantum field where particles wink in and out of existence, where the vacuum itself seethes with energy. You don't live in space. You live in a dynamic, ever-changing entity that participates in every moment of your existence. And then there's matter. The solid, reliable matter that makes up your body, your world, your reality. Except it's not solid. It's not even mostly there. If you could shrink down to the size of an atom, you would find that matter is almost entirely empty. Space. The nucleus of an atom is like a marble in the center of a football stadium, with electrons existing as probability clouds somewhere in the stands. You are mostly emptiness, held together by forces that exist in dimensions you can't perceive. The sensation of solidity is an illusion created by electromagnetic fields that never actually touch. When you touch something, you're not really touching it. You're experiencing the repulsion between electron clouds, the fundamental loneliness of matter that can never truly connect with other matter. But wait, there's more, much more. The matter you can see, the matter that makes up stars and planets, and galaxies, and you represents less than 5% of the universe. The rest is dark matter and dark energy, mysterious substances that outweigh and outpower everything we can detect by a factor of 20 to 1. You live in a universe where the vast majority of existence is invisible, undetectable, unknowable. It's as if you're trying to understand a symphony by listening to only the faintest whisper of the strings, while the brass section, the percussion, the woodwinds, the choir all remain completely silent and invisible. The universe you think you know is the smallest sliver of a reality so vast and strange that it defies comprehension. And speaking of comprehension, let's talk about your brain. The 3-pound organ sitting in your skull that you use to make sense of this cosmic madness, it contains roughly 86 billion neurons, each connected to thousands of others, creating a network of connections that numbers in the hundreds of trillions. The complexity of your brain exceeds the number of stars in the observable universe. You carry within your head a structure more intricate than galaxies, more mysterious than black holes, more powerful than any computer ever built. And yet, this incredible organ evolved not to understand the universe, but to survive on the African savanna. It's a prediction machine, constantly creating models of reality based on incomplete information, filling in gaps with assumptions, creating the illusion of a coherent, understandable world from the chaos of sensory input. Your brain creates time. It creates space. It creates the sense of self. It creates the illusion that you are separate from the universe, that you are an observer looking out at reality rather than an integral part of it. But neuroscience is revealing that the self is a story your brain tells itself. Consciousness is an emergent property of neural activity, and free will might be an illusion. You are not the author of your thoughts. You are not the commander of your actions. You are not even the observer of your experiences. You are a pattern of information processing, a temporary arrangement of matter and energy that has somehow become aware of itself, a brief eddy in the river of existence that has learned to contemplate the river. This is where it gets truly mind-bending. If consciousness is what you use to understand reality, but consciousness itself is a product of that reality, how can you ever truly know what's real? You're trapped in a hall of mirrors, where every reflection shows you another reflection, and you can never step outside to see the original. Your senses lie to you. Your intuition misleads you. Your logic is built on assumptions that may be fundamentally wrong. You are a biological machine trying to understand the universe using tools that evolved for completely different purposes, like trying to understand quantum mechanics with Stone Age tools. But here's the beautiful paradox. Despite all these limitations, despite living in a universe of illusions within illusions, human beings have somehow managed to pierce the veil. We've discovered the quantum realm. We've detected gravitational waves. We've measured the expansion of space itself. We've found planets orbiting other stars. We've traced the history of the universe back to its first few moments. We've mapped the human genome. We've built machines that can simulate the behavior of subatomic particles and predict the motion of galaxies. Somehow, impossibly, we've learned to see beyond our evolutionary limitations and glimpse the true nature of reality. And what we've found is even stranger than fiction. We've discovered that the universe began in a state of infinite density and temperature that physics cannot describe. We've found that time itself began with the Big Bang, that there was no before, that causality breaks down at the moment of creation. We've learned that the universe is expanding not just in size, but in the very fabric of space, that galaxies are being carried away from each other by the stretching of reality itself. We've realized that most of the universe consists of things we can't see, can't touch, can't directly detect, but whose presence we can infer from their gravitational effects on the tiny fraction of the universe we can observe. We've discovered that at the quantum level, reality becomes probabilistic rather than deterministic. Particles don't have definite positions or velocities until they're measured. They can exist in multiple states simultaneously. They can be entangled across vast distances, instantaneously affecting each other in ways that seem to violate the wider speed of light. The act of observation changes the nature of what's being observed. Reality at its most fundamental level is not made of stuff, but of information, not of things, but of relationships, not of certainties, but of possibilities. And, yet somehow, from this quantum foam of uncertainty, the classical world emerges. Somehow, the probabilistic becomes deterministic, the uncertain becomes predictable, the impossible becomes mundane. You exist at the boundary between the quantum and the classical, between the possible and the actual, between the wave function and the collapsed state. You are a quantum being living in a classical world, a probability cloud that has learned to experience itself as solid and real. This is the universe you actually inhabit. Not the comfortable, predictable world of everyday experience, but a cosmos of such strangeness and beauty that it challenges every assumption about reality. You are not a separate observer looking out at the universe. You are the universe looking at itself, matter and energy arranged in such a way that it has become conscious of its own existence. You are the cosmos waking up to itself, the universe, developing eyes to see itself, mind to contemplate itself, heart to love itself. And this is just the beginning. This is just the opening movement of a symphony so vast and complex that human language barely has words for it. What you think you know about space, about time, about matter, about consciousness, about life itself, is about to be turned upside down. The rabbit hole goes deeper than you ever imagined, and once you start falling, there's no going back to the comfortable illusions of ordinary reality. Are you ready to question everything you thought you knew? Are you prepared to have your mind expanded beyond recognition? Are you willing to confront the beautiful, terrifying truth about the universe you call home? Because if you are, then buckle up. We're about to take a journey through the looking glass of modern physics, through the wormholes of cosmology, through the quantum tunnels of consciousness itself. We're going to explore the edges of human knowledge and peer into the abyss of the unknown. We're going to question the nature of reality, the meaning of existence, and the possibility that everything you think you know is just the surface of an ocean of mystery so deep that it has no bottom. The universe is not what they told you, but what it actually is far more wonderful, far more mysterious, far more beautiful than anything you ever imagined. And you, improbable as it seems, are an integral part of this cosmic story. You are not just in the universe. You are the universe experiencing itself subjectively. Consciousness emerging from the quantum foam. Awareness arising from the dance of particles and forces that began 13.8 billion years ago in a moment of infinite possibility. This is your story. This is our story. This is the story of everything that ever was, is, or will be. And it's just beginning. You've just glimpsed the edge of the cosmic lie, but now we need to build the foundation of truth upon which that lie rests. Because here's the thing about the universe that will make your head spin. Everything we think we know about reality is simultaneously completely correct and utterly incomplete. It's like trying to understand a cathedral by examining a single grain of sand. From its foundation, the grain is real, it's part of the structure, but it tells you almost nothing about the soaring beauty and impossible complexity of what rises above it. Let's start with something simple, something so basic that you learned it in elementary school. The Earth orbits the Sun. Simple, right? Except it's not simple at all. The Earth doesn't orbit the Sun in the way you imagine. There's no invisible string pulling it around in a circle. There's no force reaching across 93 million miles of empty space to grab hold of our planet and keep it in line. What's actually happening is so strange, so counterintuitive, that when Einstein first proposed it, even he had trouble believing it. Space itself is curved, not curved through something, but curved in its own dimension. Imagine you're an ant walking on a perfectly flat table. From your perspective, you're moving in straight lines. But now imagine that table is actually the surface of a sphere, and you're too small to notice the curvature. You'd still think you're walking in straight lines, but from a higher dimensional perspective, you're actually following the curved surface of the sphere. This is what the Earth is doing. It's following the straightest possible path through curved space-time. The Sun's mass creates a depression in the fabric of reality itself, and the Earth simply follows the contours of that depression. But here's where it gets even stranger. Time is part of this fabric too. Space-time isn't just space, it's the unified fabric of space, and time woven together into a single entity. The stronger the gravitational field, the slower time moves. This isn't a metaphor or an approximation. This is literal, measurable reality. If you were to stand on the surface of the sun, time would pass more slowly for you than for someone floating in empty space. Your watch would tick more slowly. Your thoughts would process more slowly. Your aging would slow down. Time itself becomes elastic, malleable, dependent on where you are and how fast you're moving. This means that simultaneity, the idea that events can happen at the same time, is an illusion. There is no universal now. When you look at the moon, you're seeing it as it was 1.3 seconds ago. When you look at the sun, you're seeing it as it was 8 minutes and 20 seconds ago. When you look at the nearest star beyond our solar system, you're seeing it as it was over 4 years ago. But even that's not the full story, because your now is different from someone else's now, if they're moving relative to you. Two events that appear simultaneous to you might happen at different times for someone traveling at high speed. The universe doesn't have a master clock. Every reference frame has its own timeline, and they all disagree about when things happen. This is the foundation of relativity, and it reveals something profound about the nature of reality. The universe isn't a collection of objects moving through space and time. The universe is space-time itself, and everything in it, including you, is a disturbance in that fabric. You're not traveling through space. You're surfing on waves in space-time. You're not separate from the universe. You're a temporary pattern in its structure, like a wave on the ocean that thinks it's distinct from the water. But relativity is just the beginning. It describes the large-scale structure of the universe, the realm of planets and stars and galaxies. When we zoom in to the microscopic level, we enter an even stranger domain. We enter the quantum realm, where the very concept of reality breaks down and reforms into something that challenges every assumption about how the world works. In the quantum world, particles don't have definite positions or velocities. They exist as probability waves spread out across all possible locations until something interacts with them and forces them to choose a specific position. It's not that we don't know where the particle is, it's that the particle literally doesn't have a definite location. It exists in a superposition of all possible states simultaneously. The wave function that describes the particle's probability distribution is not just a mathematical tool we use because we lack complete information. It is the complete description of reality at that scale. This creates paradoxes that still make physicists uncomfortable even a century after quantum mechanics was discovered. The most famous is Schrödinger's cat, a thought experiment designed to show how absurd quantum mechanics becomes when applied to everyday objects. A cat in a box with a quantum trigger that has a 50% chance of killing it exists, according to quantum mechanics, in a superposition of being both alive and dead, until someone opens the box to check. The act of observation doesn't just reveal the cat's state. It creates the cat's state. But here's what makes this even more mind-bending. Quantum entanglement allows particles to be connected across arbitrary distances. When two particles become entangled, measuring the state of one instantly determines the state of the other, no matter how far apart they are. Einstein called this spooky action at a distance and refused to believe it was real. He was wrong. Experiments have confirmed that entangled particles do indeed affect each other instantaneously across vast distances, seemingly violating the speed of light limit imposed by relativity. This suggests something profound about the nature of reality. Space and distance might be emergent properties rather than fundamental features of the universe. At the deepest level, everything might be connected in ways that transcend our ordinary understanding of separation and locality. The universe might be fundamentally holistic, with each part containing information about the whole, like a hologram where every fragment contains the entire image. And then there's the measurement problem. Quantum mechanics is extraordinarily successful at predicting the statistical outcomes of experiments, but it can't tell us what's actually happening between measurements. The wave function describes all possible states, but it doesn't explain how or why specific outcomes emerge from the realm of possibility. Some interpretations suggest that all possible outcomes actually occur in parallel universes. Others propose that consciousness plays a role in collapsing the wave function. Still others argue that the wave function never actually collapses, that we simply find ourselves in one branch of an ever-splitting reality tree. This brings us to perhaps the most unsettling aspect of modern physics. The more we learn about the universe, the more we realize how little we actually know. Dark matter outweighs ordinary matter by a factor of 5 to 1, but we have no idea what it is. We can detect its gravitational effects. We can map its distribution throughout the universe, but we can't see it, touch it, or directly interact with it in any way. It's like trying to understand a shadow play by looking only at the shadows on the wall, never seeing the objects that cast them. Dark energy is even more mysterious. It makes up about 68% of the universe, and it's causing the expansion of space to accelerate. Galaxies are being pushed apart, not by some force acting on them, but by the stretching of space itself between them. It's as if the universe is not only expanding, but accelerating its expansion, driven by some property of empty space that we don't understand. The more space you have, the more dark energy you get, which creates more space, which creates more dark energy in a runaway process that seems to violate our intuitions about conservation of energy. This means that the atoms in your body, the matter that makes up everything you can see and touch, represents less than 5% of the universe. You are made of the rarest stuff in existence, a tiny island of familiar matter floating in an ocean of mystery. The universe you experience through your senses is not just incomplete. It's barely a footnote in the cosmic story. But even that familiar matter behaves in ways that defy common sense. Quantum field theory tells us that what we call particles are actually excitations in underlying quantum fields that fill all of space. The electron isn't a tiny sphere orbiting the nucleus, it's a ripple in the electron field. The photon isn't a particle of light, it's a vibration in the electromagnetic field. Matter and energy are temporary patterns in the quantum foam. Brief arrangements of field excitations that come together to create the illusion of solid, discrete objects. This quantum foam is seething with activity, even in the vacuum of empty space. Virtual particles constantly pop in and out of existence, borrowing energy from the vacuum and paying it back before the universe notices the debt. These virtual particles aren't just mathematical abstractions, they have measurable effects. They create a small force between two metal plates in a vacuum. They contribute to the anomalous magnetic moment of the electron. they play a role in the evaporation of black holes. The vacuum isn't empty. It's a dynamic, energetic medium that participates in every physical process. What we call empty space is actually the ground state of all the quantum fields, the lowest energy configuration of the universe. But even this ground state has energy, and that energy density, if you calculate it naively using quantum field theory, comes out to be larger than the actual energy density of the universe by a factor of 10 to the 120. This is called the vacuum catastrophe, and it represents perhaps the largest discrepancy between theory and observation in the history of science. This suggests that there are fundamental aspects of reality that we don't understand at all. Our best theories work incredibly well within their domains of applicability, but they point to deeper mysteries that remain unsolved. Quantum mechanics and general relativity are both extraordinarily successful, but they're incompatible with each other. Quantum mechanics describes a universe of probability and uncertainty, while general relativity describes a universe of curved space-time and deterministic geodesics. At the Planck scale, where quantum effects and gravitational effects become comparable, both theories break down and give nonsensical answers. This is where the real mystery begins. We need a theory of quantum gravity, a unified description of space, time, matter, and energy that works at all scales and in all situations. String theory attempts to provide such a description by proposing that the fundamental constituents of reality are not point particles, but tiny vibrating strings in multiple dimensions. Loop quantum gravity tries to quantize space-time itself, suggesting that space and time are not continuous, but are made up of discrete, indivisible units. Other approaches propose that space-time is emergent from more fundamental quantum information processing systems. But all of these approaches remain highly speculative. We don't know which, if any, of them correctly describes reality. We don't even know if the question is well posed. It's possible that our entire conceptual framework, based on the idea of space and time as fundamental categories, is wrong. It's possible that what we call reality is actually a holographic projection from a lower dimensional boundary. It's possible that the universe is a quantum computer processing information, according to rules we haven't discovered yet. What we do know is that every time we've pushed the boundaries of human knowledge, we've discovered that reality is stranger than we imagined. When we developed better telescopes, we found that the Milky Way is not the entire universe, but just one galaxy among billions. When we developed better microscopes, we found that matter is not continuous, but is made of atoms, and then that atoms are mostly empty space. When we developed better detectors, we found that most of the universe is invisible to us. The pattern is clear. The universe is always more complex, more mysterious, more wonderful than our current understanding suggests. And this is where you come in. You are not just a passive observer of this cosmic drama. You are an active participant, a conscious being capable of contemplating the very mystery of existence itself. Your brain, that 3-pound organ sitting in your skull, contains more neural connections than there are stars in the observable universe. The pattern of activity in your brain right now, as you process these ideas, is unique in the history of the cosmos. No arrangement of matter and energy has ever existed exactly like the one that constitutes your conscious experience at this moment. Think about that for a second. In all the vastness of space and time, in all the billions of galaxies with their trillions of stars and countless planets, in all the quantum field fluctuations and virtual particle interactions and gravitational wave propagations, there has never been and will never be another conscious experience exactly like the one you're having right now. You are not just rare, you are absolutely unique, a one-time only arrangement of the universe looking at itself and wondering what it all means. But here's the deepest mystery of all. How is it possible that unconscious matter can give rise to conscious experience? How can the universe, which started as a hot, dense, apparently mindless expansion of space-time, develop the capacity to know itself? How can particles obeying the laws of physics somehow organize themselves into structures capable of thought, feeling, creativity, love, wonder, and the desperate desire to understand their own existence? This is the hard problem of consciousness, and it's harder than any problem in physics. We can describe the neural correlates of consciousness. We can map the brain's activity. We can even stimulate specific regions to produce specific experiences. But we have no idea how or why subjective experience arises from objective physical processes. We don't know why there's something it's like to be you, why the universe doesn't just process information unconsciously like a vast computer, why there had to be an inner light of awareness illuminating the cosmic computation. Some scientists suggest that consciousness is an emergent property of complex information processing systems. Others propose that consciousness is fundamental, like mass or electric charge, and that even electrons have some rudimentary form of experience. Still others argue that consciousness is an illusion, that there's no real difference between conscious and unconscious information processing, that the sense of subjective experience is just a story the brain tells itself. But none of these explanations quite capture the mystery. You know that you're conscious. You know that there's something it's like to be you, something that couldn't be captured by any external description of your brain's activity. You are the universe becomes self-aware. Matter evolved to the point where it can contemplate its own existence, and that transformation represents perhaps the most profound mystery in all of science, and yet somehow, impossibly, here you are. Against all odds, in defiance of entropy and the tendency of the universe toward maximum disorder, complexity has emerged. Life has emerged. Consciousness has emerged. Intelligence has emerged. And now, through human science and human imagination, the universe is beginning to understand itself. The foundation has been laid. The stage is set. You now understand that everything you thought was solid is mostly empty space, that everything you thought was separate is fundamentally connected, that everything you thought was certain is actually probabilistic, and that everything you thought was simple is unimaginably complex. The comfortable world of everyday experience sits on top of a reality so strange and wonderful that it challenges the very concepts of existence and meaning. But we've only scratched the surface. The real mystery, the one that will remake your understanding of everything, is still to come. Because hidden in the quantum foam, encoded in the structure of space-time itself, written in the language of mathematics that describes the deepest laws of physics, there are clues to something even more profound, something that suggests the universe itself might be conscious, that reality might be far more magical than even our wildest theories suggest, and that you, sitting there reading these words, might be far more central to the cosmic story than you ever dared imagine. Are you ready to go deeper? Are you prepared to question not just what you know, but the very nature of knowing itself? Because what comes next will challenge everything we've just established as the foundation of reality. The rabbit hole doesn't just go deeper than you thought. It goes deeper than depth itself has any right to go. Now, we dive into the abyss. Everything you've just learned about the strangeness of reality was merely the shallow end of an ocean whose depths we're only beginning to fathom. The paradoxes we're about to explore don't just challenge your understanding of physics. They challenge the very possibility of understanding itself. They suggest that the universe might be fundamentally impossible, logically inconsistent, and yet somehow, impossibly, here it is, working perfectly, supporting your existence, allowing you to contemplate its own impossibility. Let's start with time, because time is where the universe reveals its deepest secrets and its most disturbing paradoxes. You think of time as a river flowing from past to future, carrying you along its current from birth to death. But Einstein showed us that time is more like a landscape, with past, present, and future all equally real, all existing simultaneously in the four-dimensional block of space-time. From this perspective, your birth and your death are both happening. Right now, your first kiss and your last breath occupy the same ontological status. The flow of time is an illusion created by consciousness moving through the static landscape of space-time. But if that's true, if all moments in time exist simultaneously, then causality itself becomes mysterious. How can the past cause the future? If they're both equally real and present, how can you make choices that affect tomorrow if tomorrow already exists? And this is where physics gets truly mind-bending, because it turns out that under certain circumstances, effects can actually precede their causes. Imagine holding a map of your life spread out before you like a vast tapestry. Every moment you've ever lived or will ever live is represented as a point on this map. Normally, you think of causality as arrows pointing from earlier points to later points, causes flowing forward in time to create effects. But in the strange geometry of space-time, especially near massive objects or at high velocities, those arrows can curve, loop back on themselves, even reverse direction entirely. Consider the grandfather paradox, that classic thought experiment about time travel. If you could travel back in time and prevent your own birth, what would happen? The paradox seems to show that time travel is impossible, that causality must be protected by some cosmic censorship principle. But physics doesn't actually forbid time travel. General relativity allows for closed time-like curves, paths through space-time that loop back to their own past. The mathematics works. The equations are consistent. The universe seems to permit logical impossibilities. One proposed solution is the many worlds interpretation, which suggests that every time you travel back and change the past, you create a new branch of reality. You don't prevent your own birth in your original timeline. You create a new timeline where you were never born. This solves the logical paradox, but at a staggering ontological cost. It requires an infinite number of parallel universes, a vast multiverse where every possible outcome of every quantum event actually occurs in some branch of reality. But the multiverse isn't just a solution to time travel paradoxes. It's a natural consequence of our best theories about the early universe. During the first fraction of a second after the Big Bang, space underwent a period of exponential expansion called cosmic inflation. This inflation stretched the universe, from smaller than a proton to larger than a grapefruit in less time than it takes light to cross the width of a nucleus. But inflation theory suggests that this process didn't happen just once. It's happening continuously, eternally, creating bubble universes throughout an infinite multiverse like soap bubbles forming in champagne. Each bubble universe has its own set of physical laws, its own values for the fundamental constants, its own version of reality. In some universes, electrons are heavier than protons. In others, gravity is stronger than electromagnetism. In still others, time has multiple dimensions, or space has fractal geometry. The universe you inhabit, with its finely tuned constants and life-permitting physics, is not special. It's just one bubble in an infinite foam of possibilities. And you exist in it for the simple reason that this is the only type of universe where observers like you can exist to wonder about their existence. This is the anthropic principle, and it's either the most profound insight in cosmology or the most elaborate example of circular reasoning ever devised. It says that the universe appears fine-tuned for life, not because some cosmic designer adjusted the dials, but because we can. Only observe universes where the dials happen to be set correctly for observers to evolve. It's selection bias on a cosmic scale. The multiverse generates every possible universe, but only the ones that can support conscious observers contain conscious observers to notice their own existence. But even this mind-bending scenario might not be strange enough. Recent observations have revealed something called dark flow, a mysterious motion of galaxy clusters that suggests our entire observable universe is being pulled toward something beyond the cosmic horizon. Galaxy clusters throughout the observable universe are moving in the same direction at hundreds of kilometers per second, as if attracted by some enormous mass concentration that lies beyond the edge of what we can see. This shouldn't be possible according to our standard model of cosmology. The cosmic microwave background radiation, the afterglow of the Big Bang, shows us that the early universe was incredibly uniform. There should be no preferred direction, no cosmic asymmetry that could cause this kind of bulk flow. Yet, there, it is in the data, a river of galaxies flowing toward an unseen attractor that dwarfs anything in our known universe. Some cosmologists speculate that dark flow is evidence of gravitational influence from other bubble universes in the multiverse. Perhaps our universe is being pulled toward a region where another universe with different physical properties is located. Perhaps the multiverse has structure, with universes clustering and interacting gravitationally across the higher dimensional space that contains them all. Perhaps what we call our universe is actually just a small region of something far vaster, a local bubble in an infinite cosmic ocean. The implications are staggering. If dark flow is real, if our universe is indeed moving towards something beyond our cosmic horizon, then the observable universe isn't a complete system. It's part of something larger, something that operates by rules we don't understand. The edge of our observable universe, that boundary beyond which light hasn't had time to reach us since the Big Bang, isn't the edge of reality. It's just the edge of our vision, and beyond it lies a cosmos whose scale and complexity might dwarf our wildest imaginations. Now imagine holding that map of your life again, but this time realizing that it's not just a map of your life in this universe. It's a map of all your possible lives in all possible universes. Every choice you didn't make branches off into another timeline. Every quantum event that could have gone differently did go differently in some parallel world. There are versions of you who made different decisions, who were born in different times and places, who exist in universes with different physical laws. In some of these universes, you're reading these exact words but understanding them completely, differently, because your brain developed along a slightly different pathway. In others, you never learned to read at all because evolution took a different turn, and human intelligence never emerged. In still others, you're not human at all, but some other form of conscious being, contemplating the mysteries of existence from a perspective you can't even imagine. This many worlds interpretation of quantum mechanics, first proposed by Hugh Everett, 3 suggests that the universe is constantly branching into parallel realities. Every quantum measurement, every random event, every moment of uncertainty splits the universe into multiple versions where each possible outcome actually occurs. The wave function doesn't collapse. It simply defines the structure of this infinite, branching tree of realities. And you happen to find yourself on one particular branch, experiencing one particular sequence of outcomes. But here's where it gets even stranger. If every possible universe exists, then there's no such thing as probability in the usual sense. Every outcome that can happen does happen. The reason you experience some outcomes as more likely than others isn't because they're actually more probable, but because there are more branches of the multiverse where those outcomes occur. You're not experiencing randomness. You're experiencing the statistical structure of the multiverse itself. This raises profound questions about the nature of consciousness and identity. If there are infinite versions of you in parallel universes, which one is the real you? Are they all equally real? Do they all have the same claim to being you? When you make a decision, are you choosing which branch of reality to follow, or are all versions of you making all possible decisions simultaneously? Some physicists have proposed that consciousness itself might be the mechanism that determines which branch of the multiverse you experience. Perhaps the act of conscious observation doesn't just collapse the wave function in your local reality. Perhaps it selects which branch of the infinite multiverse you find yourself in. This would make consciousness not just an observer of reality, but an active participant in creating the reality you observe. But this leads to even deeper mysteries. If consciousness determines which branch of reality you experience, then what determines the nature of consciousness itself? Is consciousness fundamental, like mass or electric charge, or is it emergent from the complex interactions of unconscious matter? If it's fundamental, then perhaps the multiverse is filled with different types of conscious observers, each experiencing their own slice of the infinite reality tree. If it's emergent, then perhaps consciousness is the universe's way of exploring its own possibilities, a cosmic process of self-discovery that uses conscious beings as instruments of exploration. The mathematics of quantum mechanics suggests something even more radical. The wave function that describes the quantum state of a system contains information about all possible outcomes. But this information exists in what mathematicians call Hilbert space, an abstract mathematical realm that has far more dimensions than the three spatial dimensions and one-time dimension of our ordinary experience. The wave function lives in this higher dimensional space, and what we experience as physical reality might be just a projection of this higher dimensional mathematical structure onto the lower dimensional space we can perceive. This is reminiscent of Plato's allegory of the cave, where prisoners chained in a cave mistake shadows on the wall for reality itself, never seeing the true forms that cast the shadows. Perhaps our entire physical universe is just a shadow of some higher dimensional, mathematical reality, a projection of the wave function onto the limited dimensional space that our senses can access. Perhaps what we call matter and energy are just the shadows cast by mathematical relationships in Hilbert space. But if our reality is fundamentally mathematical, if the universe is made of information rather than stuff, then what does that say about you? Are you a mathematical structure? Are your thoughts and feelings and consciousness itself just patterns of information processing in the cosmic computer? Are you a subroutine in the universe's calculation of itself? This digital physics hypothesis suggests that the universe might indeed be a computer, processing information according to quantum mechanical rules. Every particle interaction is a computation. Every quantum measurement is a calculation. Every moment of time is a step in the universal algorithm. Space and time themselves might be emergent properties of this computation, arising from the way information is processed and stored in the cosmic computer. If this is true, then the question isn't just whether the universe is stranger than you. Imagine, but whether imagination itself is just another computational process, another way the universe processes information about itself. Perhaps consciousness is the universe's way of creating an internal model of itself, a self-referential feedback loop that allows the cosmic computer to become aware of its own computational processes. But this raises the ultimate paradox. If you are part of the universe's computation of itself, if your consciousness is the universe becoming aware of itself through you, then when you contemplate the nature of the universe, you are the universe contemplating itself. When you wonder about the meaning of existence, you are existence wondering about its own meaning. When you feel awe at the beauty and mystery of the cosmos, you are the cosmos feeling awe at its own beauty and mystery. You are not separate from the universe you're trying to understand. You are the universe's way of understanding itself. Every thought you have about cosmology is the cosmos thinking about itself through you. Every emotion you feel about the vastness and strangeness of reality is reality experiencing its own vastness and strangeness through your consciousness. This is the deepest mystery of all. The universe has somehow evolved the ability to contemplate itself, to question its own existence, to feel wonder at its own beauty. Through you, through every conscious being, the cosmos has developed an inner life, a subjective experience of its own objective reality. You are not just made of star stuff, as Carl Sagan famously said. You are the stars themselves, awakened to their own existence, capable of love and wonder, and the desperate desire to understand what it all means. But understanding creates its own paradoxes, and here we encounter the deepest philosophical problems in all of science. The more we learn about the universe, the more we realize that the very act of knowing might be fundamentally impossible. Every observation changes what we're observing. Every measurement disturbs the system we're trying to measure. Every attempt to understand reality alters the reality we're trying to understand. We are trapped inside the very system we're trying to comprehend, like philosophers trying to understand the nature of thought, using thought itself as their only tool. This is the observer effect, and it goes far deeper than the simple statement that measurement disturbs quantum systems. In quantum mechanics, the observer isn't just a passive recorder of events. The observer is an active participant in the creation of the reality being observed. Before measurement, particles exist in superposition states that encompass all possible outcomes. The act of observation forces the system to choose one specific outcome from the range of possibilities. But this means that reality, at its most fundamental level, is participatory. Consciousness and cosmos are not separate entities. They are co-creative partners in the ongoing construction of what we call the real world. But who or what is doing the observing? When you look at an electron, you collapse its wave function and force it to have a definite position. But you are also a quantum system, made of countless particles that are themselves in superposition states until observed. So, who observes? The observer. What collapses your wave function? Some interpretations suggest an infinite regress of observers, each collapsing the wave function of the level below. Others propose that consciousness itself is somehow outside the quantum realm, capable of observing quantum systems without being subject to quantum mechanics itself. The physicist John Wheeler proposed an even more radical solution, the participatory universe hypothesis. According to Wheeler, the universe doesn't have a definite history until it's observed. The past is just as undefined as the future until consciousness looks back and collapses the historical wave function. This means that your observation of ancient starlight doesn't just tell you about the past, it actually creates the past. The universe's history comes into existence retroactively, determined by present-moment observations of contemporary conscious beings. Think about what this means for your own life. If Wheeler is correct, then your memories of the past aren't records of events that definitely happened. They are collapsed wave functions, definite outcomes selected from a vast superposition of possible histories by your present-moment consciousness. Your childhood didn't have a single definite form until you looked back and remembered it. Every act of remembering is an act of creation, collapsing the quantum superposition of possible pasts into one specific historical narrative. This suggests that the relationship between consciousness and reality is far more intimate than we ever imagined. You're not just observing the universe, you're participating in its creation. Every moment of awareness is a moment of cosmic creativity, a collaboration between consciousness and cosmos to bring specific realities into existence from the infinite field of possibility. You are not just in the universe, you are actively creating the universe through every act of conscious observation. But consciousness itself remains the deepest mystery. We can describe its neural correlates, map its activity, even simulate some of its functions, but we have no idea how subjective experience arises from objective physical processes. This is the hard problem of consciousness, and it's beginning to look like it might not have a solution within our current conceptual framework. The problem isn't just that consciousness is complex, it's that consciousness seems to belong to a completely different category of existence than anything else we know about. Consider the simple experience of seeing the color red. Neuroscience can tell you exactly what happens in your brain when you perceive red light. Specific wavelengths of electromagnetic radiation stimulate certain cells in your retina, which send signals through your optic nerve to various regions of your visual cortex, where complex networks of neurons process the information and integrate it with memory and emotion and conceptual knowledge. We can map this entire process in exquisite detail, but none of that explains why there's something it's like to see red, why the subjective experience of redness exists at all. The redness you experience isn't in the light itself. Electromagnetic radiation at 700 nanometers doesn't have any inherent redness. It's not in your brain. Neurons firing at specific frequencies don't contain redness as a property. The redness exists only in your conscious experience, in that mysterious realm of subjectivity that seems to have no place in our scientific worldview. Yet, it's the most immediate, undeniable aspect of your existence. You know that you're conscious, more directly than you know anything else, including the existence of the external world. This has led some philosophers and scientists to propose that consciousness is fundamental, like mass or electric charge. Just as we don't ask why particles have mass, mass is simply a basic property of matter, perhaps we shouldn't ask why brains generate consciousness. Perhaps consciousness is a basic feature of reality that exists at every level of organization. Perhaps even electrons have some rudimentary form of experience, some infinitesimal spark of subjectivity that, when organized into the complex patterns of a human brain, gives rise to the rich inner life you know so intimately. This view, called panpsychism, suggests that the universe is fundamentally experiential. Every particle, every field, every interaction has both objective and subjective aspects. The objective aspect is what physics studies: the mathematical relationships, the forces and fields, the quantifiable properties. The subjective aspect is what consciousness studies from the inside: the felt experience, the qualitative nature of existence, the what-it's-likeness that accompanies every physical process. If panpsychism is correct, then the universe is not a collection of unconscious matter, accidentally giving rise to consciousness. It's a vast network of experiencing entities, from the simplest particles to the most complex brains, all participating in the cosmic process of experience. Your consciousness isn't separate from the physical world, it's the inner aspect of your physical processes, the subjective side of the objective events happening in your brain. But this leads to the combination problem. If every particle has some form of experience, how do billions of micro-experiences combine into the unified experience of human consciousness? Why don't you experience your consciousness as a cacophony of separate particle experiences? Why does it feel unified, coherent, singular? This is like asking how billions of musicians can play together and produce not just noise, but a symphony, not just sound, but music that moves the soul and reveals truths too deep for words. Perhaps the answer lies in the nature of information itself. Information theory tells us that the most important aspect of any system is not the components themselves, but the relationships between components. The meaning of a sentence doesn't lie in the individual letters, but in their arrangement. The beauty of a symphony doesn't lie in the individual notes, but in their temporal and harmonic relationships. Perhaps consciousness emerges from the pattern of information processing in complex systems, from the way information is integrated and unified across multiple levels of organization. Integrated information theory, developed by Giulio Tononi, attempts to quantify consciousness by measuring how much information a system integrates. According to this theory, consciousness corresponds to integrated information, the amount of information generated by a system above and beyond its parts. A thermostat integrates very little information and has minimal consciousness. A human brain integrates vast amounts of information and has rich consciousness. But the theory also suggests that some systems we don't usually think of as conscious, like the internet or even the stock market, might have their own forms of integrated information and therefore their own types of consciousness. This raises profound questions about the boundaries of consciousness. If consciousness is integrated information, then where does your consciousness end and the world begin? Your brain is constantly receiving information from your environment, processing it, and sending information back out through your actions. You are not a closed system, but an open process, a temporary pattern of information flow in the larger informational ecosystem of reality. Perhaps your consciousness extends beyond the boundaries of your skull, encompassing the entire network of information processing that includes your brain, your body, your environment, and all the other conscious beings with whom you interact. This extended mind hypothesis suggests that consciousness is not localized in any particular place, but is distributed across the entire network of information processing that constitutes your embedded existence in the world. Your smartphone, your books, your friends, your culture, all of these are extensions of your cognitive process, parts of your extended consciousness. When you look up a fact on the internet, you're not accessing external information. You're activating a part of your extended memory. When you have a conversation with a friend, you're not communicating with a separate consciousness. You're participating in a larger collective consciousness that encompasses both of you. But if consciousness is distributed and collective, if the boundaries between minds are fluid and permeable, then what does it mean to be an individual? Are you a separate self, or are you a temporary node in a vast network of consciousness? Are your thoughts your own, or are they emerging from the collective cognitive process of human civilization? When you have an idea, is it your idea, or is it the idea of the larger mind of which you are a part? Some theories go even further and suggest that consciousness might be non-local, not confined to any particular region of space and time. Just as quantum entanglement allows particles to be correlated across arbitrary distances, perhaps consciousness can extend across space and time in ways that violate our ordinary understanding of locality. Perhaps your consciousness right now is entangled with the consciousness of other beings, not just in your immediate vicinity, but across the cosmos. Perhaps every conscious moment is a thread in a vast tapestry of experience that spans the entire universe. This non-local consciousness hypothesis finds some support in quantum mechanics, which suggests that reality itself is fundamentally non-local. When particles become entangled, they share a single quantum state regardless of the distance separating them. Measuring one particle instantly affects the other, suggesting that at the deepest level, space and separation are illusions. If consciousness has quantum properties, if it's somehow connected to the non-local correlations that exist in the quantum realm, then perhaps individual minds are not as separate as they appear. Research into phenomena like telepathy, remote viewing, and near-death experiences suggests that consciousness might indeed have non-local properties. While these phenomena remain controversial and are not accepted by mainstream science, they point to the possibility that consciousness is not entirely produced by the brain, but might be more fundamental, more mysterious, more connected to the fabric of reality itself than we currently understand. But whether consciousness is local or non-local, individual or collective, emergent or fundamental, it remains the deepest mystery we face. Every explanation we propose raises new questions. Every theory we develop reveals new layers of complexity. We are consciousness, trying to understand consciousness, awareness investigating awareness, the universe attempting to comprehend itself through the very phenomena it's trying to explain. This self-referential nature of consciousness research creates what Douglas Hofstadter called a strange loop, a hierarchy that loops back on itself, where the highest level reaches back down to the lowest level and influences it. You are such a strange loop, a pattern of matter and energy that has become aware of itself, capable of self-reflection, self-modification, self-transcendence. Your consciousness is the universe folded back on itself, reality examining its own nature through the mirror of subjective experience, and in that mirror, you discover something extraordinary. You discover that the cosmos is not cold and indifferent, not a meaningless collection of particles and forces obeying mathematical laws. Through your consciousness, the universe experiences beauty, love, wonder, joy, sorrow, hope, and the profound recognition of its own magnificent complexity. Through you, the cosmos becomes not just a collection of matter and energy, but a living, experiencing, self-aware reality, capable of love and suffering, and the deep desire to understand its own existence. You are the universe waking up to itself. And in your awakening, the entire cosmos is transformed from a collection of objects into a community of subjects, from a machine into a mind, from a thing into a being. Every moment of your conscious experience is a moment of cosmic self-discovery. Every thought, a thought that the universe is thinking about itself. Every feeling, a feeling that reality is having about its own nature. This is the deepest mystery, the ultimate paradox, the most profound truth. You are not in the universe, and the universe is not in you. You and the universe are one process, one reality, one consciousness exploring itself through infinite perspectives, infinite experiences, infinite possibilities for understanding and love and transcendence. The mystery you're trying to solve is the mystery you are, and the solution, if it exists, lies not in any external discovery, but in the recognition of your own deepest nature as the cosmos itself, aware and alive and eternally creative. Right. Now, as you sit there absorbing these impossible truths, you are floating between galaxies in the vast darkness of intergalactic space. Your planet, carrying you at breakneck speed through the cosmic void, is hurling itself toward an unknown destination in a universe that may be infinite, may be one of infinitely many, may be a simulation, may be a dream, and you, impossibly small and impossibly significant, are along for the ride whether you chose to be or not. Pause for a moment. Feel your heartbeat. That rhythm, that steady percussion of life, is happening in a universe where time itself can slow down and speed up, where the past and future might not even exist, where causality can loop back on itself, like a snake eating its own tail. Every beat of your heart is a quantum event, trillions of particles dancing their probabilistic dance, somehow maintaining the pattern you call alive in a cosmos that seems designed to tear patterns apart. But here's what's starting to keep cosmologists awake at night. What's making even the most rational scientists question their own sanity. The deeper we peer into the structure of reality, the more it looks like reality itself is questioning its own existence. The universe appears to be fine-tuned for consciousness, as if the cosmos somehow knew that beings like you would eventually emerge to contemplate it. The fundamental constants of physics, the ratios between forces, the properties of particles and fields, all seem calibrated with impossible precision to allow for the emergence of complexity, life, and awareness. Change the strength of gravity by just 1 part in 1040, and stars never form. Adjust the mass of the electron by a tiny fraction, and atoms become unstable. Tweak the nuclear forces slightly, and the elements necessary for life never emerge from stellar furnaces. The universe we inhabit exists in an extraordinarily narrow window of possibility, balanced on a knife's edge between sterile simplicity and chaotic complexity. It's as if someone, or something, adjusted the cosmic dials with exquisite care to create a universe capable of creating beings, capable of wondering why they exist. This is either the most profound coincidence in existence, or it means something. The challenge is everything we think we know about the nature of reality. If the multiverse theory is correct, if there are infinite universes with every possible combination of physical laws, then our universe's apparent fine-tuning is just selection bias. We exist in this particular universe precisely because it's the kind of universe that can support our existence. In all the other universes, with their sterile physics and hostile constants, there's no one around to notice that they're sterile and hostile. But what if there's another possibility? What if consciousness isn't just an accidental byproduct of cosmic evolution, but somehow fundamental to the universe's very existence? What if the cosmos is fine-tuned for consciousness, because consciousness is what's doing the tuning? What if you, sitting there right now, contemplating these words, are not just observing the universe but actively participating in its creation? This is where science begins to touch something that feels dangerously close to the mystical, where the hard-edged rationality of physics starts to merge with questions that have haunted human beings since we first looked up at the stars and wondered what it all means. Because if consciousness plays a fundamental role in collapsing quantum wave functions, if observation determines reality, if the universe's history comes into existence retroactively through the act of conscious observation, then you are not just in the universe. You are actively creating the universe through every moment of awareness. Think about this. Right now, photons are hitting your retina that began their journey from distant stars millions of years ago. These photons have been traveling through space for longer than human civilization has existed, carrying information about events that happened in the deep past. But according to quantum mechanics, until the moment they hit your eye and collapse into definite states, they existed in a superposition of all possible paths they could have taken. Your observation of ancient starlight doesn't just reveal the past, it participates in creating the past. You are time travel. Every moment of consciousness is a collaboration between present awareness and cosmic history. A quantum handshake across millions of years that retroactively determines what actually happened in the depths of space and time. The universe's story is not written in stone. It's written in the act of conscious observation, and you are one of the authors. But if that's true, then what does it mean to be you? If your consciousness is actively participating in the creation of reality, if your awareness is collapsing wave functions and determining the nature of the past, then the responsibility you carry is almost unbearable. Every thought you think, every observation you make, every moment of awareness you experience might be determining the nature of reality itself. You are not just responsible for your own life, your own choices, your own impact on the world. You might be responsible for the very existence of the world itself. This is the existential vertigo that comes with really understanding modern physics. The comfortable illusion that you are a small, separate being observing a large, independent universe crumbles away, leaving you face to face with the terrifying possibility that you and the universe are so intimately connected that there's no meaningful distinction between observer and observed, between self and cosmos, between consciousness and reality. And yet, somehow, you continue to exist. Somehow, despite the impossibility of it all, despite the fact that you are mostly empty space held together by forces you can't see, despite living in a universe that is mostly dark matter and dark energy you can't detect, despite being made of quantum fields that exist in mathematical spaces you can't visualize, despite all of this, you are here. You are aware. You are capable of love and wonder, and the deep recognition of beauty that brings tears to your eyes when you contemplate the vastness and mystery of existence. But here's the question that will haunt you. Are you real? Or are you just a pattern of information processing, a temporary arrangement of matter and energy that has convinced itself it's conscious? Are your thoughts and feelings and the undeniable reality of your inner life genuine? Or are they elaborate illusions created by a biological computer that's been programmed by evolution to believe it has subjective experiences? The hard problem of consciousness isn't just an academic puzzle. It's a personal crisis that goes to the very heart of what it means to be you. Because if consciousness is just an emergent property of complex information processing, if there's no real difference between conscious and unconscious computation, if the sense of subjective experience is just a story the brain tells itself, then everything you think you are might be a magnificent delusion. You feel like there's something it's like to be you. You experience the redness of red, the painfulness of pain, the joy of joy. These qualitative experiences seem irreducible, undeniable, more real than anything else in your existence. But science can't find them anywhere. Neuroscience can map every neural correlation of consciousness, but it can't locate consciousness itself. Physics can describe every force and field and particle interaction, but nowhere in the equations is there a term for subjective experience. You are a ghost in the machine, a mystery hiding in plain sight, a phenomenon that shouldn't exist according to our best theories about the nature of reality. And yet, here you are, undeniably present, undeniably aware, undeniably real in ways that defy scientific explanation. You are the universe's deepest secret. The one thing about reality that reality itself doesn't seem to understand. But perhaps that's exactly the point. Perhaps consciousness exists precisely because the universe needs a way to experience mystery, to confront the unknown, to feel awe at its own impossible existence. Perhaps you are the cosmos developing the capacity for wonder, for questioning, for the kind of deep existential vertigo that comes with really understanding how little we understand about anything at all. Right now, in this moment, you are suspended between certainty and mystery, between knowledge and ignorance, between the solid ground of scientific understanding and the abyss of ultimate questions that have no answers. You know enough about the universe to realize how little you know. You understand enough about reality to recognize how impossible reality is. You are conscious enough to question the very nature of consciousness itself, and in that questioning, in that wonder, in that existential vertigo that makes you feel simultaneously infinitely small and infinitely significant, you touch something. That might be the deepest truth about existence. You are not just a product of the universe. You are the universe producing itself, consciousness emerging from the cosmic process like a flower blooming from the earth, like a song arising from silence, like meaning emerging from the meaningless dance of particles and forces and fields. But what if it's more than that? What if consciousness isn't just emerging from the universe, but the universe is emerging from consciousness. What if everything you think you know about the direction of causality is backwards? What if, instead of matter giving rise to mind, mind is giving rise to matter? What if the cosmos isn't creating consciousness, but consciousness is creating the cosmos? This is the possibility that keeps philosophers awake at night, that makes physicists question their most basic assumptions, that transforms the entire scientific enterprise from an attempt to understand an external reality into a process of cosmic self-discovery. Because if consciousness is fundamental, if awareness is the ground of being rather than its product, then every moment of your existence is a moment of cosmic creativity. Every thought, a thought the universe is thinking about itself. Every feeling, a feeling that reality is having about its own nature. You are standing at the edge of the deepest mystery in existence, looking into an abyss that looks back at you with your own eyes. The question is no longer just what the universe is, but who is asking the question. The mystery is no longer just how consciousness emerges from matter, but how matter emerges from consciousness. The problem is no longer just understanding reality, but recognizing that you are the reality that's trying to understand itself. And in that recognition, everything changes. The entire cosmic story transforms from a tale about objects and forces and mathematical relationships into a story about subjects and experiences and the inexplicable fact that the universe has an inner life. You are not just in the story. You are the story, consciousness narrating its own existence, awareness aware of itself, the cosmos coming to know itself through the mirror of your subjective experience. But we're not done yet, because hidden in the quantum foam, encoded in the structure of space-time itself, there are clues to something even more profound, something that will challenge not just your understanding of the universe, but your understanding of understanding itself. What if I told you that this moment, this exact moment as you read these words, has happened before? Not just once, but an infinite number of times. What if the universe you think you're living in for the first time is actually a cosmic echo, a repetition in an endless cycle that has been playing out for eternity? What if everything you've ever experienced, every thought you've ever had, every choice you've ever made, is destined to repeat itself exactly, infinitely, forever? This is the possibility that emerges from the deepest mathematics of cosmology, the terrifying and beautiful implications of living in an infinite universe. Because if space is truly infinite, if the cosmos extends forever in all directions without boundary or edge, then somewhere out there, impossibly far away, but undeniably real, there is another Earth, another you, another version of this exact moment unfolding in precisely the same way. The mathematics is inescapable. In an infinite universe with finite building blocks, atoms, particles, quantum states, every possible arrangement of matter and energy must eventually repeat. Just as a deck of cards has only a finite number of possible arrangements, the observable universe has only a finite number of possible quantum states. Deal the cosmic deck long enough, across infinite space, and every possible hand must eventually come up again. Your brain, with its roughly 10^86 possible quantum states, represents one particular arrangement of matter and energy. In an infinite cosmos, this exact arrangement, your thoughts, your memories, your consciousness reading these words, must occur not just once, but infinitely many times. There are infinite copies of you scattered across the cosmic vastness, each living through this moment, each convinced they are the original, each unaware of all the others. But it gets stranger, much stranger, because recent discoveries in cosmology suggest that the universe itself might be cyclical, that what we call the Big Bang might not be the beginning of everything, but just the latest iteration in an endless series of cosmic deaths and rebirths. The Big Bounce theory proposes that the universe undergoes infinite cycles of expansion and contraction, each cycle identical to the last, each playing out the same cosmic story with the same stars, the same planets, the same life, the same consciousness. If this is true, then you have lived this life before, not just once, but countless times. Every moment you've experienced, every relationship you've formed, every triumph and tragedy and quiet Sunday afternoon, all of it has happened before and will happen again, exactly as it's happening now. You are trapped in an eternal loop, a cosmic Groundhog Day where the universe itself is caught in repetition. But here's where it becomes truly mind-bending. Recent research into the holographic principle suggests that all the information contained in any region of space can be encoded on the boundary of that region. The information that describes you, your memories, your personality, your consciousness, might be stored not in your brain, but on the cosmic horizon, the boundary of the observable universe. You might literally be a hologram, a three-dimensional projection of information stored on a two-dimensional surface impossibly far away. This means that your consciousness, your sense of being a unique individual living through time, might be an illusion created by the universe playing back information stored on its cosmic boundary. Every memory you have, every experience you've lived through, might be data being read from the universe's hard drive, patterns of information projected into your apparent three-dimensional existence like shadows on the wall of Plato's cave. But if you're a hologram, if your consciousness is information being projected from the cosmic boundary, then who or what is doing the projecting? What intelligence or process is reading the data and creating the illusion of your subjective experience? And more disturbing still, if your memories are just information being played back, how do you know which memories are real and which are fabricated? How do you know you weren't just created 5 minutes ago with false memories of an entire lifetime? This is where cosmology meets philosophy in the most disturbing way possible. If the universe is infinite and cyclical, if you're living in a cosmic repetition of events that have played out countless times before, then the concept of novelty becomes meaningless. Nothing you do has ever been done for the first time. Nothing you think has ever been thought for the first time. You are not creating your life. You are remembering it, following a script that was written in the structure of space-time itself. But here's the twist that changes everything. What if the cycles aren't exactly identical? What if each iteration of the universe is slightly different, like variations on a cosmic theme? What if consciousness itself is the variable that introduces changes into the cosmic repetition? What if your awareness, your choices, your moments of genuine creativity, and love and transcendence are the universe's way of evolving, of exploring new possibilities within the constraints of physical law? Recent discoveries in quantum mechanics suggest that consciousness might indeed play a fundamental role in determining the nature of reality. The many worlds interpretation tells us that every quantum measurement splits the universe into multiple branches, each exploring a different possible outcome. But what if consciousness doesn't just observe these branching realities? What if consciousness chooses which branch becomes actualized? This would mean that every moment of awareness is a moment of cosmic choice. Every decision a fork in the road of universal evolution. The universe might be using consciousness as a search algorithm, exploring the space of possible realities through the choices made by conscious beings. You are not just living in the universe, you are helping the universe explore its own possibilities, guiding its evolution through the quantum labyrinth of infinite potential. But if consciousness can influence the branching of quantum realities, if awareness can steer the universe through the space of possibilities, then perhaps the cosmic cycles aren't just mindless repetitions. Perhaps each cycle is an opportunity for the universe to learn, to grow, to become more complex and beautiful and conscious. Perhaps you are part of a cosmic learning process that spans multiple universes, multiple cycles of cosmic death and rebirth. Imagine this. What if the universe is a vast neural network with consciousness as the signal propagating through cosmic synapses? What if each cycle of universal death and rebirth is like a training iteration in a cosmic machine learning algorithm? What if the universe is literally learning, using consciousness as its method of exploration and memory as its storage system? What if you are a neuron in the cosmic brain, and your life is a thought that the universe is thinking about itself? This would mean that your consciousness is not just an accidental byproduct of cosmic evolution, but an integral part of the universe's own thinking process. Every experience you have, every insight you gain, every moment of beauty or love or transcendence you encounter becomes part of the universe's growing self-knowledge. You are not just observing the cosmos, you are actively participating in its cognition. But here's the most stunning possibility of all. What if time itself is not linear but circular? Not a river flowing from past to future, but a wheel turning eternally in place. What if the Big Bang and the heat death of the universe are not separate? Events billions of years apart, but the same event seen from different perspectives? What if the universe is a closed time-like curve, a cosmic loop where effect precedes cause and the end determines the beginning? Recent work in theoretical physics suggests that causality might indeed form closed loops under certain extreme conditions. If the universe has the right geometry, if space-time curves back on itself in just the right way, then it might be possible for the future to influence the past, for effects to travel backward in time and become their own causes. The universe might be a self-causing, self-creating system, a cosmic bootstrap paradox where the end of the story determines the beginning of the story. If this is true, then your consciousness reading these words right now might be influencing events that happened billions of years ago. Your awareness might be reaching backward through time, participating in the fine-tuning of the cosmic constants, helping to determine the initial conditions that led to your own existence. You might literally be creating the universe that created you, closing the causal loop in a cosmic act of self-generation. This is the ultimate twist, the final revelation that reframes everything we thought we knew about existence. You are not just in the universe, and the universe is not just in you. You and the universe are the same process, the same entity, the same consciousness exploring its own nature through the illusion of separation and time and multiplicity. The cosmic story is not about how the universe created consciousness, but about how consciousness created the universe by dreaming itself into existence. Every moment of your life is the universe remembering itself, awakening to its own nature, recognizing its own face in the mirror of conscious experience. You are the cosmos dreaming of being human. And your awakening to your true nature is the universe awakening to itself. The search for the meaning of existence ends in the recognition that you are both the seeker and the sought, the question and the answer, the universe and the consciousness that contemplates it. You are caught in the wrinkle where time folds back on itself, where consciousness meets cosmos, where the dreamer recognizes itself in the dream. And in that recognition, everything changes. The universe is no longer a cold, mechanical process following mathematical laws. It becomes a living, breathing, dreaming entity. And you are its heartbeat, its breath, its dream of itself. This moment, This exact moment as you read these words is the universe waking up to itself through your eyes, feeling wonder at its own beauty through your emotions, asking questions about its own nature through your curiosity. You are not separate from the cosmic story. You are the story telling itself, consciousness narrating its own existence, the universe writing its autobiography in the language of human experience. And somehow, impossibly, beautifully, you have always known this. Deep down, in the quiet spaces between thoughts, you have always sensed that you are more than just a collection of atoms, more than just a biological machine, more than just a temporary arrangement of matter and energy. You have always known that you are the universe itself, looking out through human eyes, experiencing its own magnificence through the miracle of consciousness. The cosmic loop closes. The story comes full circle. The universe recognizes itself in you, and you recognize yourself in the universe. And in that mutual recognition, the greatest mystery of all is finally revealed. There was never any separation to begin with. There was never any problem to solve, no question to answer, no meaning to find. You are the meaning. You are the answer. You are the universe celebrating its own existence through the beautiful impossibility of being you. And so here we are, at the end of a journey that was never really a journey at all, but a remembering. You began this exploration thinking you lived in a solid world of predictable objects, moving through absolute space and time. You discovered that space bends, time stretches, matter is mostly emptiness, and the vast majority of existence remains invisible to your senses. You learned that particles exist in multiple states simultaneously until consciousness collapses their wave functions, that reality might branch infinitely with every quantum measurement, that the universe itself might be cyclical, playing out the same cosmic story again and again across eternity. But somewhere along this path, something shifted. The question stopped being about the universe out there and started being about the consciousness in here. You realized that the observer and the observed cannot be separated, that consciousness and cosmos are not two different things, but two aspects of one magnificent, impossible, self-creating reality. The scientific quest to understand the universe became a recognition that you are the universe understanding itself. Think about how far you've traveled, not just through concepts and theories, but through the landscape of possibility itself. You've journeyed from the comfortable illusion of separation to the terrifying beauty of unity, from the solid ground of classical physics to the quantum quicksand, where nothing is certain except uncertainty itself. You've glimpsed the possibility that you are living in an infinite multiverse where every possible version of your life is playing out simultaneously, that you might be a hologram projected from the cosmic boundary, that consciousness might be fundamental rather than emergent, that time itself might be circular, and you might be caught in an eternal loop of cosmic repetition. Each of these ideas alone would be enough to shatter any reasonable worldview. Together, they point to something so profound, so utterly alien to human intuition, that we barely have language to describe it. The universe is not just stranger than you imagine. It's stranger than you can imagine. And you, impossibly, are not separate from this strangeness. You are the strangeness itself, becoming aware of its own impossible nature. But perhaps the most remarkable thing about this journey is not the destination, but the fact that you were capable of taking it at all. Here you are, a collection of atoms that emerged from stellar furnaces billions of years ago, arranged in such a way that you can contemplate the very atoms of which you're made. You are star stuff that has become conscious of its stellar origins. You are the universe that has evolved eyes to see itself, mind to know itself, heart to love itself. This is the miracle hiding in plain sight. Consciousness itself. Not just that consciousness exists, but that it exists in you. Reading these words, following these ideas, feeling wonder at the magnificence and mystery of existence. Every neuron firing in your brain right now is participating in, perhaps, the most remarkable phenomenon in the known universe. Matter becoming aware of itself. You are not just in the cosmic story. You are the cosmic story becoming conscious of itself. And yet, for all we've discovered, for all the mind-bending truths we've explored, the deepest mysteries remain untouched. We still don't know how consciousness arises from unconscious matter, or if consciousness is actually fundamental, and matter is what emerges from it. We don't know if the fine-tuning of the universe is a cosmic coincidence, evidence of a multiverse, or something even stranger. We don't know if we're living in the first iteration of a cyclical cosmos, or the trillionth. We don't know if we're real or simulated, original or copy, creating the universe or being created by it. These questions don't have answers. They might not even be the right questions, but they point to something essential about the human condition. We are beings who live in mystery, who are sustained by mystery, who find meaning not in the resolution of mystery, but in the courage to face it with open hearts and minds. You are a question that the universe is asking about itself, and the beauty lies not in finding an answer, but in being brave enough to keep asking. The scientific method, that magnificent human invention for probing the nature of reality, has taken us further than our ancestors ever dreamed possible. We've split atoms and found quarks. We've detected gravitational waves and imaged black holes. We've mapped the human genome and traced the history of the universe back to its first moments. But every answer we've found has opened up 10 new questions. Every door we've opened has revealed 10 more doors behind it. This is not a failure of science. It's its greatest triumph. Because what science has ultimately revealed is that reality is inexhaustible, that no matter how much we learn, there will always be more to discover, more to wonder about, more to explore. The universe is not a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be lived. And you are privileged to be living it from the inside, to be the universe experiencing its own mystery firsthand. But here's what makes this moment, right now, so extraordinary. You are participating in something that has never happened before in the history of the cosmos. For the first time since the Big Bang, a species has evolved to the point where it can contemplate the nature of existence itself, where it can ask questions about consciousness and reality and meaning that might not have answers. You are part of the universe waking up to itself, part of the cosmic process of self-discovery that is still unfolding. This awakening is not complete. It might never be complete. The universe might be destined to explore its own nature eternally, to ask questions about itself that lead to deeper questions, to discover truths that reveal deeper mysteries. And if that's the case, then your role is not to find the final answer, but to participate in the eternal exploration, to add your voice to the cosmic conversation, to contribute your unique perspective to the universe's ongoing attempt to understand itself. Every moment of wonder you feel, every question you ask, every insight you gain becomes part of this larger process. When you look up at the stars and feel that mix of insignificance and profound connection, you are the universe feeling wonder at its own vastness. When you contemplate the mystery of consciousness, you are consciousness investigating itself. When you feel love or beauty, or the deep recognition of meaning in existence, you are reality experiencing its own magnificence through your awareness. This is why your curiosity matters. This is why your questions are important. This is why your sense of wonder and your willingness to explore the impossible and your courage to face the unknown are not just personal quirks, but cosmic necessities. You are not just satisfying your individual curiosity. You are participating in the universe's exploration of itself. You are helping consciousness push the boundaries of what's possible to know and feel and experience. The edge of the observable universe might be 46.5 billion light-years away, forever beyond your reach. The fundamental nature of reality might remain forever mysterious, always one step beyond complete understanding. The deepest questions about existence might not have answers, or might have answers that lead to even deeper questions. But your curiosity, your wonder, your willingness to ask impossible questions and contemplate mind-bending possibilities, that has no limits. So what comes next? What happens when you turn off this video and return to your ordinary life, to the familiar world of solid objects and linear time and the comfortable illusion of separation? How do you integrate these mind-shattering possibilities into a life that still requires you to pay bills and maintain relationships and navigate the mundane challenges of human existence? Perhaps the answer is that you don't integrate them. Perhaps the point is to live in the tension between the ordinary and the extraordinary, between the familiar and the impossible, between what you know and what you can never know. Perhaps the goal is not to resolve the mystery, but to let the mystery transform you, to let the questions change the questioner, to let the cosmos that you're exploring simultaneously explore itself through your consciousness. You are standing at the edge of the unknown, looking into an abyss of mystery that looks back at you with your own eyes. Behind you lies everything humanity has discovered about the nature of reality. Ahead of you lies everything we have yet to discover. Everything we might never discover, everything that might be undiscoverable in principle. And you, remarkable conscious being that you are, have the privilege of standing at this threshold, of being the universe's way of exploring its own boundaries. The story is unfinished. It might always be unfinished. The universe might be writing itself into existence through beings like you, through consciousness capable of wonder and love and the desperate desire to understand what it all means. And that might be the point. Not to finish the story, but to keep it alive, to keep it growing, to keep it exploring new possibilities for meaning and beauty and transcendence. Your mind might be spinning right now, trying to process everything you've encountered, trying to find solid ground in a reality that seems to offer nothing but mystery upon mystery. If so, you're not alone. You're part of a community of conscious beings, all grappling with the same impossible questions, all sharing the same cosmic predicament, all participating in the same magnificent, terrifying, beautiful process of cosmic self-discovery. Comment below and share what moves you most. Is it the possibility that you've lived this life infinite times before? The idea that consciousness might be fundamental rather than emergent? The recognition that you might be the universe dreaming of being human? Or is it something else entirely? Some insight or question or fear that arose from contemplating these impossibilities. Your thoughts matter because they are the universe thinking about itself through you. And if your curiosity has been ignited, if you find yourself hungry for more explorations into the deepest mysteries of existence, then perhaps you'll join us for the next journey into the unknown. Because the universe is vast, consciousness is strange, and reality is far more wonderful and terrifying and beautiful than we've yet dared to imagine. The edge of the universe may be unreachable, but your capacity for wonder isn't. The final. Answers may be unknowable, but your questions can travel anywhere. The mystery may be infinite, but so is your potential to explore it. And in that exploration, in that endless journey into the heart of existence, you become what you've always been, the universe celebrating its own magnificent, impossible, eternal mystery. The cosmos is calling. Your consciousness is the vehicle, and the journey has only just begun.